where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian, and with me is Willow.
Hello.
Hello. So this is the last episode of our Held in Captivity month. So I'm going to announce the new theme, which is always exciting for me, because by the end of the month, I'm fucking done. Yeah. I'm done with this
This month especially.
Oh, it's been really hard. So we're doing Influencer Month.
Yes.
Basically, what that will entail is influencers who've either been the victim of some crime or were the perpetrator of crimes. And we have a lot of very interesting cases to look into. So, and a lot of things to talk about, because there's
a lot of like social issues in that category. A lot of like how we
make content and what that's all about.
Yeah, and how our audiences affect our content creators. And it's more of an up-to-date view on some of these true crime cases. I know a lot of times we cover stuff from like the 80s and beyond. So,
yeah, these are more modern cases. And this one isn't, but... Sorry, I'm just mad in advance. You'll find out why.
She told me that I would be mad, and so I made sure to eat some food beforehand so I wasn't irrationally mad.
I'm not unhinged. I've had spaghetti, so we're okay, but damn. So here we have another case of a girl who gets abducted and held captive, and everyone loves to victim blame her to death. Like worse than any of the other cases we've covered.
Right.
Which we won't be doing, obviously.
And didn't you say that you like watched a documentary? And
I had to turn it the fuck off, and I'll talk about that in a minute. I'm going to give the trigger warnings right now. So we have child sexual assault, child abuse, grooming, and sexual assault. So I'm not going to get into the details, even though I've read the book about this case, and I just don't want to. I don't think it adds anything. It just kind of, I don't know. I feel like there's something to be said about making content and focusing solely on salacious details for titillation.
Right.
We don't need those details. It doesn't impact the case.
Sometimes those details are important, and sometimes they are not.
It's not that they're not important. It's that they're not relevant to our discussion in so much that I'll tell you it happened, but I don't need to get into every gruesome detail of this. It just feels like riding around on somebody else's pain, and I don't want to do that. So this is the case of Tanya Kach. She was born on October 14th, 1981, and her childhood was rough. Her mother had a kind of mental breakdown or some mental health issue when Tanya was 7 and started physically abusing her. Her parents' marriage ended when she was 13 years old, and her father was granted sole custody of her and moved her to McKeesport. It's a really hard word to say, Pennsylvania. The move was difficult for her. She's 13. I don't know about y'all, but when I think about my teen years, I feel like 13 was the worst fucking year of my life.
Literally.
God. It's like overnight changed. 12, I was having a good time. I was doodling, playing with dolls, having tea
I still
parties.
had my Barbies out at 12.
If you hear thunder, it's because it's storming. And it was like really... I was so excited to be a teenager. Oh my God. I couldn't wait. I thought I didn't want to grow up. I wanted to be a teenager. I was very enamored with the idea. And immediately my face like erupted into 20,000 zits. I became socially awkward. I got made fun of relentlessly, and my hair was bad. Thank you, puberty. So imagine moving schools at this tumultuous hormonal time of your life. And it's a big change. It's not just moving schools. It's not just moving towns. It's moving after your parents' marriage ends. So divorce is hard. Even if as a kid you're like, yes, y'all should get divorced. It's still hard. And she was really struggling. She felt isolated and alone. She was from a really small town, and McKeesport was a much bigger town. And so she didn't know anybody, and it was really hard to make friends. And I'm going to maintain excuse me, why? I'm going to maintain that it's hard to make friends no matter what age you are.
Right.
But
sorry, what time period is this?
This is in the 90s. This is 1995 right
okay.
now.
Yeah.
And y'all,
That's
listen to me.
There's
as I
a lot
speak
of
to
big
you.
bully season.
I know bullying's still a thing. Like, let's get that clear.
Absolutely.
I have kids.
Absolutely.
But it was different.
It was.
It was more vicious.
Yeah. And I don't know, like society encouraged it to a degree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was in all of the media and all of that.
Well, you just had to accept it. The end. There was no, like, don't bully kids PSAs like there are today. There was a bunch of just turn the other cheek and laugh along with them. That does not work.
Yeah.
I was physically assaulted. I was, sexually harassed. That's the word I'd use. And I was just trying to fit in and make friends. I can't imagine, moving towns and schools, and my parents got divorced after my mom abused me because she had a mental breakdown.
Right. All the cliques are solidified and you don't even know who the fuck you are.
Ugh.
Yep.
Yeah. And her home life was difficult, too. She didn't get along with her father, and as a result, she started doing poorly in school. Her grades plummeted. She frequently got in trouble at Cornell Middle School, and it was here she met school security guard Thomas Hose.
Ew, what? No. Oh, my God.
Tanya remembers the first time she saw him. Right after she arrived at Cornell Middle School, he would walk by the classes she was taking and look through the window, like in the door, and wink at her.
That's fucking disgusting.
The attention soon went from winks to Thomas taking her out of class under the pretense that she was in trouble, because he was a school security guard. Then, once outside the classroom, he would tell her he just wanted to walk the halls with her and talk to her.
What the fuck?
That this was allowed.
The audacity that he could just do this.
Yeah.
In on the job, in front of people.
Oh, I know. This whole case pisses me off. Thomas did this often, and Tanya felt as though she'd made a friend. She'd been so lonely and angry, and having someone to talk to and getting all that attention made her feel better. And no one suspected anything was going on because Thomas was well known, trusted, and well liked in town. He'd been a security guard at schools for years and years with no incidents. He came to Cornell Middle School a year before Tanya got there. Even so, Thomas was spending more and more time with a 13-year-old. He's clearly grooming her. Tanya said he was so empathetic and seemed to care about her. She felt like she could tell him anything. And being only 13, she didn't understand how inappropriate it all was. In fact, she developed a crush on him. After all the abuse and upheaval in her life, Thomas was someone she could trust and rely on. To her, it was like a fairy tale romance. She had no experience with crushes or kissing before, so when Thomas one day caught her skipping class and kissed her, it seemed like all her dreams were coming true. It was, for Tanya, an escape from an unhappy home life. After struggling to fit in and moving and being abused by her mother and her parents' divorce, this was stability. Her romance with Thomas. And when he kissed her, she was 14. And being only 14 at the time, she didn't know that it was abuse and that Thomas had groomed her. And I want to just pause and talk about this for a minute.
How old is he?
He is in late 20s. I believe he's 28 when this starts.
Not that it technically matters because he's still an adult.
He is double her age.
I just wanted to make sure, so I know.
Yeah. That's...
No, but I mean, from her standpoint,
I get it.
He's not an old man. He's a mature person. You know what I mean? I was that teenager. I did that. I know.
And I may have gotten his age wrong. The research on this, y'all, was so hard because I can't sit through a podcast or documentary that victim blames. I just want to throw up.
Yeah.
I can't. I looked on Wiki. It doesn't give his age at the time of the, incident when it starts. So I'm doing my best, and I can't math here on the spot. So,
but I'm trying to gauge him so he wouldn't be like her dad's age. You know what I mean?
He would have been younger than her dad, but still,
I'm still viewing it
older.
through her eyes, not morality's eyes by any means.
And she even says later she was seeking a father figure because she didn't think her dad loved her.
Right. And he's probably really busy too. Oh, I don't know anything about his dad.
Oh, we'll get to her fucking dad.
Ew. Okay. God damn it.
Piece of shit. So,
but yeah, I just want to reiterate that I was that teenager. I mean, I was sexually assaulted at 13. And then so after that, any type of attention from a man after that was approval. And so I ended up being groomed and sexually assaulted by older men several times and I didn't know what that was.
Yes.
So I thought I was being consensual, and it wasn't. I was a child.
Did too. All right. And I'm going to give you guys a little history.
Yeah.
When I was 16 years old, almost 17, I went to work for the Tulsa Daily World newspaper.
Yeah.
I worked as obituary girl, and which is for a goth kid is like the coolest, okay? And I did the marriages and divorces. Like you have to type up that public notice in the newspaper, and that's what I did. I also did various errands and stuff. And there was a reporter there, and I'm going to name this motherfucker named David Harper, who was 38 years old. And he would come and sit with me during lunch breaks or when I used to smoke, and I would be in the smoke area, and he would come sit with me. He started like offering to take me out to lunch, like when I would be on lunch break. And these would be really fancy restaurants. And he would pay for everything.
Right.
He bought me gifts and eventually asked me out on a date. Now I was 17 at this time, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like a reporter. Wow, is asking me out.
Right.
Y'all, I was an idiot. This is a grown-ass man.
People don't give teenagers at least that little bit of credit that at that age we think that we're older than we are, and we don't really understand what it's like the other way around.
He groomed me.
Yes, exactly.
And then
that's what I mean.
One night he had invited me to his house to have pizza, and everything had been above board until then. And then he took out his dick. And I was 17 years old. It was a baby. He should be in jail.
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't think to press charges, but I was shocked. I had never slept with anyone before. And so I was just horrified, and I left. And he was so mean to me. And I didn't realize till much later in my life that how inappropriate, disgusting, and abusive that was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I'm sure people out there say, well, he was too old for you. You should have known that. I didn't know that. That's why young people cannot give consent in the same way. The power balance is not,
right. And that's why they're susceptible to this type of
my mother was an abusive alcoholic.
Right.
Me and my dad weren't getting along. And I was just seeking someone to care about me. And so I get how Tanya feels.
Yes.
I know exactly how she feels.
Yeah.
I was like, this is going to be my escape.
Yeah.
This is going to be somebody who's a writer. They have to be sensitive.
You mean an adult thinks that I'm not just attractive, but interesting?
Cool?
Yes.
So I thought I was cool.
Exactly. I don't see how people can victim blame. I don't see how they can blame her.
It.
Man.
So eventually, Thomas started asking Tanya to run away to his house to live with him. He painted this idyllic picture of how happy they'd be, how much better off she'd be with him. Tanya was scared, but she was excited too. She could finally be happy. On the morning of February 10th, 1996, Tanya packed up her school bag with clothes and sentimental items and ran away from home. She'd only been going to Cornell Middle School for 6 months. Tanya's father never suspected anything was going on, according to him. But he contradicts himself later, so we'll get into that. In interviews, he said he knew nothing of her life at school at all. He didn't know her friends or what activities she got up to. He claimed to drive the streets over and over searching for her. If he was as distraught as he claims in interviews, I find it particularly interesting that a police report wasn't filed until 4 days after she went missing.
4 days?
4 fucking days.
She is in middle school. She's not even 15 yet, right?
No, she's 14.
She's 14, yes.
Just turned 14.
Yeah.
I will just caution y'all in advance, Tanya's dad sucks really bad and blames his daughter for everything. I believe he is most certainly culpable in what happened to Tanya. By his own admission, he knew nothing of her life. And while I understand, believe me, I do, that kids can be secretive, you have to try. Tanya's dad says he behaved a certain way after he went missing. But frequently contradicts himself. Like his claim he didn't know about her life, that's not true. It's not true.
He did know about the officer?
Yeah. He knew about Thomas Hose. He knew about him.
Yeah.
I'll get to that, though.
That's disgusting.
In addition, Tanya's family never contacted the police after the initial report. They never asked for the status of the investigation, never phoned in any ideas or clues that they might have uncovered.
What?
Jerry, Tanya's dad, says the reason he waited 4 days is that he wanted to make sure she hadn't just run off, as she was known to have done in the past.
Did she?
She had run away before.
Okay.
But we'll get to how I feel about that in a second.
I mean, not that it matters, because
Yeah.
you should go get your child.
Tanya was known to McKeesport police for being a runaway and for being truant from school. So Jerry said that he didn't want to cry wolf. And I have a hard time with this because regardless of whether she was abducted or whether she ran away, she was only 14. She's still a child that needs to be brought home. I don't understand waiting. It's not crying wolf to ask for help from the police to locate your child. It's their literal job. Mm-hmm. In addition, police had been out to Jerry's house because Tanya had accused her stepmother Joanne of physically abusing her. I will keep this as alleged because Joanne claimed that it's all lies. But when you look at Tanya's behavior, I don't know, seems like something wasn't right at home. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to
She clearly
speculate.
didn't want to be there.
No.
And all of us want to be home and safe, so
Something's up.
yeah.
I'm real tired of blaming the child for stuff. Their brains aren't developed enough to make logical, rational decisions until they're
Right.
25 years old. In a documentary I watched on this case, Joanne said that she was glad Tanya was gone because of how many problems she'd caused.
Ew.
I don't like to judge parents, but I'm going to put this out there. Will, due to abuse from their bio dad and ADHD, had some real behavior problems. This made them very hard to raise at times. Maris and Will frequently butted heads, but Maris never once gave up on Will. Maris remained patient and was such a good dad. If something similar happened with Will, Maris would never say he was glad Will was gone.
Right.
Never.
Yes.
Or he'd be gone. Mm-hmm. You don't get to talk about my child that way. What the fuck is wrong with you? Mm-hmm. She was like, oh, I felt so bad for thinking that. I'm like, why is it even flying out of your mouth right now?
When did she feel bad for thinking that? Before or after she got public backlash for saying it?
Oh, they don't get public backlash.
Oh, really?
Yep. This case is firmly against the victim. Like, everybody hates Tanya.
What the? I can't comprehend that. I mean, I hear you saying that, but I can't comprehend that. She's a child.
Disgusting. Yeah. So Tanya moved into Thomas's house about a mile away from her dad's house. Thomas lived with his elderly parents in a rundown part of town in McKeesport. It was a shabby 2-bedroom house. According to Tanya herself, Thomas's parents had no idea she was there during most of her captivity, and they never knew that she was ever being held against her will. Thomas kept Tanya in his room and forbade her from leaving. It was here she'd spend the next 4 years.
Oh my God.
She shared the room with Thomas's son, Justin, who was only about a year younger than her.
What?
1 to 2 years younger than her. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm.
That's the part of the case that bothers me the
It's
most.
so hard to breathe.
It just bothers me so much.
Yeah.
Tanya wasn't even allowed out of the room to use the bathroom. She had to use a bucket.
In front of the child,
Sure.
her age.
And
Wow.
I don't know where the guy's son was during the assaults. I really hate thinking about it.
Oh no.
Immediately, Thomas sexually assaults Tanya. To Tanya, this was a romantic relationship, and she felt as though she was in love. She just wanted to feel special, but the truth was Thomas had preyed on her, a new student, only 13 when they met, groomed her, and convinced her this was all some fairy tale. Mm-hmm. It is not a fairy tale to be locked in a room all day and have to go to the bathroom in a bucket.
Mm-hmm. And for a child to, quote unquote, have sex with an adult, no.
Never.
No.
He had her do sexual acts she found disgusting and upsetting. It didn't matter if she protested. He would push her to do things that made her feel uncomfortable. Regardless of what you think about her running away, there's no way that a 14-year-old child can consent. They lack the agency to do so, full stop. This case is some of the most disgusting victim blaming I've ever seen, and I'm sad I have to say that. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, including neighbors, dispute that Thomas's parents had no idea that Tanya was being kept in Thomas's room. But they were older and infirm, and Thomas was very controlling and had intimidated them. This is something he planned for at least 6 months, and maybe they suspected something, but I'm going to go with Tanya's account as she was, actually fucking there. Mm-hmm. And she says this repeatedly in that documentary. She's like, I don't care what people say, they weren't in my shoes. Mm-hmm. And ooh, howdy, when I hear any victim blaming, I think you weren't there. It didn't happen to you.
Stand up for herself like that
Constantly.
I get it. That's fucking terrible.
In that same documentary, this is where I turned it off, by the way, a neighbor actually had the unmitigated gall to say, Stockholm Syndrome, my ass. And we wonder why victims don't speak out. Mm-hmm. Tanya's day-to-day was very routine and very boring. Thomas would go to work early in the morning, and Justin would go to school, and Tanya would just sit there listening to her headphones. She said she felt like a dog waiting for her master to come home. She thought she was in love with him at first. To her, he was Prince Charming, who had come to rescue her from her unhappy life. Thomas brought her jewelry, treats. He brought her things to do her hair, because he liked her hair blonde. Just gross.
It's bad radio. I made a face.
Yeah. But usually, he only fed her leftovers from his plate from dinner. Sometimes peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. She had no contact with the outside world. All she had was TV sometimes. And this is so pitiful. This shows how much of a child she is that Thomas said he would get her a magazine, and she picked Cat Fancy magazine.
Baby.
She said I would read it cover to cover over and over.
Oh my God.
And I'm not saying if you're an adult and you enjoy cat magazines, you're a child.
I mean, you're one of us, but still, that just gets me.
Yeah.
That gets me.
How innocent she was.
That's a baby. I mean,
When Thomas's parents knocked on the door, she was forced to hide in the closet. She said one of her lowest points was sitting in that closet on Christmas Eve. She said she thought about her family and wondered if she were the only person in the world sitting in a closet on Christmas Eve, and I think that is so sad. Tanya being missing didn't make it into the newspapers at all. Though a report with police had been filed, everyone assumed she'd just run away. And she had, but to me, I don't understand why this isn't taken more seriously. Why isn't a 14-year-old child going missing regardless of circumstance not a big deal? Her case was barely investigated by police. They assumed she'd just run off. They had no idea that Thomas Hose was keeping her captive in his parents' house. In one of the reports, police had been told that Tanya was talking to the school security guard and was seen with Thomas frequently. Why wasn't that lead followed up on? Thomas was never questioned by police.
Jesus
not once.
Christ. It was her only relationship, her only friendship, the only person she talked to. It would have been the only lead besides her parents.
Exactly. Jerry, Tanya's father, had her diary. Tanya's stepmother found it and found entries referring to Tom and how they had had sex when she was only 13.
Oh.
Fuck. Why wasn't this turned over to police? It wasn't, by the way. They said they didn't because they didn't know who Tom was. Okay, so it didn't occur to them that the police could figure it out?
Right.
Sorry for hollering, but god damn it. Tanya believed her father never really looked for her, and I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah.
Tanya's classmates had no idea that Tanya was even missing. Most assumed she'd moved away and didn't learn of her disappearance until she was found alive and well a decade later.
What the fuck?
It was not talked about at all. When another 14-year-old girl went missing a couple of years after Tanya and was found murdered, it brought attention back to her case with police. The girl's body had been found in a cemetery close to Thomas Hose's house. Now, everyone believed that Tanya was dead.
Oh, and so they were even more reason to forget about her.
Yeah. Thomas Hose is not a suspect in the death of Kimberly Krim, the other missing girl who was found dead, but Tanya's not so sure. She thinks it is a definite possibility.
I mean, it's the same age and it's the same area. Mm-hmm. Did she go to the same school?
Yes.
Yeah.
She knew, she was friends with Kimberly's older sister. Mm. Mm-hmm. It did get the police to distribute photos of Tanya nationwide. She was on milk cartons, too. They suspected a serial killer in her disappearance and in the murder of Kimberly Krim. Kimberly's case remains cold to this day. I wonder.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
I'm not accusing him, but I'm speculating. Thomas frequently threatened Tanya's life. He would tell her that he was going to smother her in her sleep, put her body in a trash bag, and sink it in the river. She said she was terrified of him, and when you're brainwashed and abused, you do what you're told. And I wish people understood this better.
Yeah.
I'm so mad it's what happened to Tanya after her escape from her rapist.
Mm-hmm.
Now listen, like, imagine you're her. Escape to where? To a family you don't even think was looking for you?
How far can you go?
When she's 16, sitting there realizing I've missed prom.
Yeah. Well,
I miss all my friends.
You don't know what connections he has. You don't know what eyes and ears he has. You don't know if
you don't know what he's fucking capable of.
Yes, exactly.
If he'll do this to.
That's what I meant. Like, if you're gonna go.
But think
go
of this
where?
too. Think of the guilt that she has for running away. She blamed herself. Of course she did. Mm-hmm. It's only human. Mm-hmm. She's like, "Well, I asked for this. Why am I going to leave? Where am I going to go?"
Yeah.
After 4 years of being kept in that room, Tanya was finally allowed some freedom. Thomas changed her identity, which is another tactic of men who keep teenage girls captive.
It is.
It is a form of control.
Mm-hmm.
He started calling her Nikki Diane Allen. Now, Nikki from Nicole, her middle name. Diane was her mother's name, and she said it made her feel close to her mom to give herself the middle name of Diane. Mm-hmm. And she was allowed to, like, go up and down the street. She could go to, like, a nearby deli kind of / convenience store. But she had to call him constantly whenever she was away. And she just kind of felt like he was always watching her, and he always knew where she was.
Right. And by this time, they have cell phones and stuff pretty normally.
She didn't, you know.
Oh, she was calling from the actual establishment?
Yep, she had to.
Wow, that's extra.
Yeah. He started calling her Nikki Allen all the time and never referred to her again as Tanya. And that is so destructive. She said she didn't even know who she was anymore.
I was about to say, it's an extra level of brainwashing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then he introduced her to his parents as his girlfriend, because she's 18 now. Mm. He waited the 4 years because she would be 18, and he wouldn't have as much scrutiny. Mm-hmm. Gross.
Yep.
And, you know, a lot of people will say, whoa, why didn't she run away then? Y'all.
It's the same with Colleen Stan. I mean, like, he didn't have, like, a underground sex cult thing that he brainwashed her with, but he brainwashed her with a whole bunch of other shit. And when someone has your life in their hands, you do as you're told.
Yes, you do. That's what she said, pretty much. By the time she was 23, Tanya was allowed to go wherever she wanted at this point. She went to hair appointments, nail appointments. He trusted her. And it was when he trusted her that she really started thinking of escape.
Right.
Because she had more freedom.
Yes.
She finally felt safe enough, like she tricked him into trusting her enough that she felt like she could make a break for it. She started frequenting this deli, and the owner, whose name was Joe, he was an older man. He had a daughter her age. Her and the daughter became friends. And she looked to Joe as a father figure. She's like, only this time it was like a healthy relationship.
Right.
He really cared about her. And she started to feel safe with him. And she said it was really hard to feel safe with anybody after Thomas had betrayed her trust.
Right.
Because he made a lot of promises to her, like, we're going to get married and have kids. We're going to get a brand new house, and it'll just be me and you. You won't have to be in this room forever. But she's like, it never changed. And all of his promises were lies. Mm-hmm. When she finally felt safe enough, she told Joe everything.
Oh, good.
Within hours of telling Joe the truth, Tanya was free, and Thomas was arrested at his parents' house. Justin, Thomas's now 22-year-old son, was questioned and later released. He had nothing to do with her being held captive.
Right.
He was told by Thomas that he was taking care of Tanya as like a daughter.
Oh.
And that this was better for her because she was abused at home.
Okay.
And I don't know what he saw. I don't know what he knows. He's been out of the media entirely. Let's keep it that way.
Yeah.
But Jesus. Ugh. Social services then worked with Tanya as the state prepared its case against Thomas Hose. Her advocate 100% believes her and believes that she was a victim because, of course.
Right.
She experienced Stockholm Syndrome as a survival mechanism. That's the very definition of the fucking thing.
Right.
Her case is considered controversial, but I totally just don't get why. It doesn't matter that she ran away willingly. Mm-hmm. Thomas Hose was an adult, and as an adult, it was on him to make sure she was safe by returning her to her home. Instead, he raped her. Mm-hmm. Thomas's defense attorney, and y'all, I need a pill to even say this.
God damn it.
Jesus, I don't know.
I didn't have enough carbs for this episode. I'm getting mad.
Thomas's defense attorney tried to say in court that Tanya didn't look 14.
What?
She looked older, and she was very, very attractive. That's disgusting. I don't care if she looked 80. She was 14. The lawyer, who I won't name because fuck him, and he gets enough publicity by taking on controversial cases, maintained that the relationship was consensual. It can't be.
No.
Can't.
No.
She was 14, and I will say this over and over until my head falls off. Anyone who disagrees can fuck all the way off into the sun, never to be heard from again. Mm-hmm. Again, we're confronted with the myth of the perfect victim. Because she was a troubled teen, Tanya gets painted as complicit in her own captivity. Because she did poorly in school and got into fights, she's not worthy of the same respect we give other victims. And I'm so fucking tired of this rhetoric. Okay. I'm not even going to link the documentary because it's vile. The people victim blaming her shouldn't get any more attention. They've had their attention. They can sit the fuck down. Mm-hmm. And I hope they're ashamed of themselves. Her parents failed her.
Yeah.
And they should have spent the rest of their lives making it up to her. They can't, but they should at least try. I'm not going to shame the podcast that fell into this same bullshit, but man, at this point, I'm fucking tempted.
Yeah.
Stop it. Stop blaming the victims. If you're a true crime content creator and you do this, you're a part of the problem. Mm-hmm. As content creators, it is our responsibility to do better, to advocate for victims, to stop sharing these salacious details to our listeners just for downloads and titillation. It's gross. If you have any platform at all, it's your responsibility to do it right. And if you don't know how, quit. Mm-hmm. Sick of it. All right, I'm going to get off my soapbox now because I'm going to have a stroke. Thomas Hose was convicted and sentenced to 15 years in prison after pleading guilty. That is the maximum he could get. He has since been released after serving this sentence. Yeah.
What?
That's the most time they can give him. And, you know, I know how courts work well enough, especially after doing this. And I'm not going to shit on that, but we need reform, y'all.
Yeah.
These repeat pedophile sexual offenders need to be locked up for good, for life. For life.
It's one of the most gut-wrenching feelings when you get that letter in the mail and you're like, oh, the person you sent to prison is getting out now. Mm-hmm. Yay.
I've gotten
Best
a letter.
of luck to you.
I've gotten that letter.
Yep.
I know you have too.
Yeah.
Tanya went on to write a book, which I will link in the description. She co-wrote it with her attorney because she needed one, and we'll get into why. Mm-hmm. It was a hard read, but it is worth it. She is a very strong person and has gone on to advocate for other victims of pedophile sexual abuse.
Good.
After writing her book, her father and stepmother sued her. Huh. I am aghast, but not surprised.
I was about to say, it fits their character.
Because she does blame him in the book. She's like, if you had been a good dad to me and actually given a shit that I went
wouldn't
missing,
have wanted to run away, you stupid fuck.
She said she only wanted to be loved, and that was it. And he didn't pay any attention to her.
That's disgusting.
Fucking hate this guy. Her former therapist also sued her because in the book, Tanya said her therapist abandoned her after 2 years. And I feel like this is a lot of opportunistic bullshit leveled against her because it went on to be a New York Times bestseller. And I think people just want to get paid. That just pisses me off so bad. Mm-hmm. Tanya had to move from McKeersport because of all the criticism against her.
Yeah.
Tanya and her father no longer speak, and I don't blame her. Good for her. Her own father says that she was a pretty girl who used her looks to get what she wanted. Disgusting.
To get what she wanted?
You think she wanted to be kept in a room for 4 years? And raped? Okay. Can you imagine talking about your child that way?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't
I know my blood is boiling.
Yeah, sorry. I had to take a minute. I feel like double vision here. Before running away, Tanya had been sexually assaulted by a 37-year-old man she had been babysitting for. Her parents blamed her for this too, even though they took this to the police eventually. Before it could go to trial, Tanya ran away from home. Her father admitted he didn't know what to do. Tanya blames her father for what happened to her. He failed to protect her. Mm-hmm. Thomas Hose is a pedophile, and Tanya was a victim. That's just how I want to close this.
Yeah.
So this child was sexually assaulted while babysitting, and her family accused her of, like, asking for it, pretty much. And you wonder why she ran away.
Mm-hmm. There's no safety there.
They're not safe places. Mm-hmm. They're not safe places to tell. It is your job as a parent to be a soft place to fall and a safe place that you can be told anything without judgment. Mm-hmm. I didn't have that. Did you?
Oh, no, not at all.
Anyone believe you?
Mm-mm.
You know how many times I ran away? Several.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we got to stop, y'all. We don't need to be asking the questions, why didn't she run off? We don't need to ask that. We know the answer. I need this to stop. Mm-hmm. So I will be linking her book. Buy it. Yeah. It's number one. It's a good read. I mean, if you like true crime, it's written well. It is hard to get through, but I think important. And her advocacy work for victims is good. I just support her 100%. And I know that Elizabeth Smart, who also heads advocacy groups, does too.
Yeah, good.
Listen to the victims and believe them.
Yes.
And stop blaming them for what happened to them. You should be able to go to school as a child and not get groomed. Mm-hmm. That's what she did wrong, apparently, is she went to school and got groomed. Oh, I'm glad this month is over. I hate it. Thanks.
This whole month it's been
so
really hard to breathe in these cases. Like, I don't know why, but it feels like the walls are caving in and I'm getting strangled. And
I feel very triggered.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I realize how much this has happened to me growing up, and I didn't realize it in the moment.
No, you don't think about it like that.
No. Yeah, like recently we had someone reach out to us and tell us about how a teenager was getting groomed through somebody that wanted to hire her as a babysitter, which is very similar to this case, like you said earlier. And the same thing happened to me, and I didn't even realize it when I was a teenager that was what was happening. I went in for like an interview to babysit, and he ended up having sexual conversations with me, and it was really gross. Yeah. Thank goodness I had a friend there that knew that it was gross and got me out of there. But yeah,
it's like weirdly
it happens so much
when you're a person who's been victimized by child sexual abuse. You minimize the weird, gross stuff adults say to you as a coping mechanism.
Well, and you think it's normal because that's what you've seen.
That's all you know.
Yes. So I didn't think this was anything weird because I had already been abused by older men.
Yes. I went through several things like that was so inappropriate. I was in so much danger and I had no idea.
And you have no idea.
But first I want to tell y'all, thank you for sticking with us and going through these hard cases.
These were really hard. These were really triggering. And I know that we're not the only ones that were suffering through them, but I really do think that it's important to talk about them, not in an exploitive way, but in a way that we can all kind of
honor the victims and maybe
And maybe find those areas in our life that, you know, like we went through, where we hear these stories and we didn't realize that, oh, this is something that I have in common with this victim.
And talk to your kids.
Talk to your kids.
Talk to your kids.
And about your kids' friends at school, because a lot of times they are these children who don't have parents.
Yes.
Or loving parents.
Yes.
And you can be, you know.
You can advocate for them. Because nobody else is going to. I'll tell you that right now.
And I needed somebody too when I was their age.
So now a little business
Big
time.
exhale.
Business time. I ain't got on business socks because I hate socks. They're foot prisons. Anyway, first of all, Patreon. I don't want to go through all the tiers. You can find it by clicking, but we have everything. We have $1, $5, and $10 tiers, so a little something for everybody's budget. And it's a good time there. We love our patrons very much. They're the literal best.
Yes, and we've been getting some. We've gotten pretty good. We have the most currently that we've ever had before.
Yeah, it's really cool. So it's, I don't know, we've created like a really nice little community on Discord. It is not behind a paywall if you want to join our Discord.
Safe place.
It is in the link tree. We do not allow any shenanigans. So it is a safe place to be.
Yes.
Yes. Also, I have soap. Not much, but I have
Smells
some.
so good, girls.
The whole house smells nice, don't it?
And candles.
They won't be up on the website.
Oh, my bad. Okay, I should keep my mouth shut.
Until like a few days from now.
They smell really good.
Yeah, they do. And they fancy too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm attending a craft fair. So whatever I have left will be up on the website next week. And if you're a listener, put Cruel, Cruel. Oh, boy, I had to stop for a second. I was like, how do I spell?
You spell the way you said it was
Cruel.
Cruel.
I can't say it right. It's like saying rural. I have a hard time, which I said perfect. Ruel. So yeah, if you put that in the coupon box, and you get 10% off because I love you. Anyway, that's all I got. And if all you can do to support the podcast is listen, we appreciate and thank you very much. You're the reason we do it. And until next time, goodbye.
Bye.
Find us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/cruelty has all the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Libby.